Hey everyone, Matt from Monger here. In this demo, I'm going to be showing you the Leviathan Distortion. This is an HM-2 based distortion, the fabled Swedish chainsaw. It's got a cult following. There are a ton of modded versions of this out there. You're probably wondering, if there are, why in the hell are you putting out another one? Well, I spent a lot of time on this, a lot of revisions, and in the end, I ended up with something I'm happy with, something that has some options I haven't seen, or at least I haven't seen done the way that I do them. And the concept of this was that I wanted to design something that people weren't going to have to work their gear around. You know, with the original HM-2, a lot of people find that they end up having to change their settings to fit that pedal, which is kind of crazy when you think about the fact that people are having to tweak all their gear in order to make one pedal fit. The idea here is that this will be the opposite. You'll make your adjustments on the pedal itself and leave your amp settings the way they are, and this will sound great. You know, tube amp, solid state, amp modeler, won't matter. This will fit. This will become a piece of gear that amalgamates nice with your rig, and you're not having to work around it. You're actually working with it. So with that in mind, I'm going to quit ranting here, and let's take a look at what this has to offer in terms of options. Let's take a look at the features of the Leviathan. So going left to right across the top, we've got the series parallel switch. So what this allows you to do is to run in series or a parallel blended mode. So right now we've got it in series mode, which just runs your signal straight through the pedal. You flip that over to parallel, and what that allows you to do is actually blend in the chainsaw tone that you're looking for. And the level knob at that point actually acts as your blend knob to dial in whatever HM2 tone you're looking for. Next to that, you've got your low, mid, and high. These are your EQ knobs. In the original HM2, the mid and high gyrators, the EQ gyrators, were actually tied together, and obviously you didn't have a mid knob. What I've done here is I've actually made the mid gyrator independent of the high so that you can actually dial in the mids properly and cut off, if you want to cut off some of that kind of top sizzle, you can. Next to that, you've got your distortion, pretty self-explanatory. That's the amount of distortion you want to dial in. Heading down to the next row here, we've got the frequency cut. So the frequency cut is basically a bank of capacitors across the last op-amp stage. And what this does is it allows you to cut out a certain band of frequencies. So counterclockwise in this position, this is the original capacitor value from the HM2. So for those diehards who don't want to change that, you leave that in that setting. That's your original HM2 capacitor value. Turning it clockwise, going through the settings, that increases, each setting increases the cap value, and that'll actually give you frequency cut in a different range, in a different EQ range. And incrementally going up, you end up kind of into a bassier, kind of doomy tone range. Next to that, you've got your hard clipping, 8 different clipping settings of the hard clipping. So starting off here, 0, so that's off. That actually will turn off the hard clipping. Next to that, you've got your silicone symmetrical. Silicone symmetrical is what was in the original HM2. Next to that, silicone asymmetrical, BAT46 symmetrical, BAT46 asymmetrical, LED symmetrical, LED asymmetrical, and MOSFET. So next to the hard clipping, you got your soft clipping. Again, 8 different clipping options here. The only difference being, obviously, that soft clipping is in a different part of the circuit, but also you've got your IC setting here. So that's IC clipping, which is basically just the natural clipping of the integrated circuit, the distortion integrated circuit. Across the bottom row here, you got your on-off switch. Pretty straightforward. Disengage, engage the effect. Now here at the end, distortion bypass. This is, last but not least, this is a really great feature. I think a lot of people who want to run their own dirty pedals through this are going to get a kick out of this, because basically this gives you 2 pedals in one right here. So when you disengage the distortion, you bypass the distortion knob, the soft clipping, and the hard clipping. So you're basically left with an HM2 EQ. all by itself. So, you can run a rat through this, you can run a metal zone, tube screamer, whatever dirt you fancy, you'll be able to run that through here. And it basically acts like an HM-2 EQ pedal on itself.
One feature I didn't mention when I was doing the original rundown of this pedal is that there's an internal brightness trim pot in between the high and the mid pots. So if you open this pedal up, you'll see that blue trimmer. Feel free to adjust that to get a bit of brightness in your tone if you desire. It's meant for like darker amps, like a dual recto or something like that. But by all means, you can always open it up and play around with that adjustment. But the caveat there is that it is bright, so it will make your tone pretty brittle pretty quick. So if you've already have a bright amp, you probably don't need to adjust it. But by all means, it's there if you need it.